Alright, so today we have a short in Defiance of Fate. Not really much to say. Hope you like the new background stuff. I sit there and I was like, God, the walls are barren, stuff like that. So I put a little bit of stuff up. Got a couple of Harley Quinn prints. Got a Star Trek poster, stuff like that. I want to get some 40K stuff. We'll be seeing if I can get it later. The Hospitaller is all about getting this one print she saw. We're thinking about it. In any case, Star Wars versus 40K. Defiance of Fate. Let's go. I don't know why I do this to myself. And let's go. Oh, hold on a second. What did that say? In collaboration with the stellar talent of Michael Wilson, a.k.a. Praetor98. Okay. I like the music.
The two moved in artistry. One step countering the next, air-pounding concussions raining away from their blows and parries, each one a vain trumpet. Each one seeking to be the sound of victory, yet only sounding to call attention to the display. The librarian and the Jedi dueled ferociously, blade and stave casting shadows across light and spearing blinding eminence through otherwise still darkness. Yet for all the glory and wonder of their conjoined skill, the pace of their dance was clear, and the song which made their rhythm was more and more rapidly singing one and only one man to victory: Saffron. But it did not yet play loudly enough to overcome Obi-Wan's ironclad discipline, which once more tore away such meanings from the sheen of his own thoughts, leaving his mind clear to continue the contest. The Jedi Master still fought to win, contending in order to strike him down and, if possible, strike him dead. But even the goal of his battle was fading from his conscious thoughts as he found himself sacrificing and dedicating all of his being to the contest before him. Body, soul, and thought, all were being consumed by the fire born of his fight, and his need to simply keep it lit. Obi-Wan was losing himself in the precise and lethal flow of combat, sinking further and further into the core of his guardian training, becoming the stone upon which the ocean must crash. In the center of this melee, deep within his zone, as it were, Kenobi had become one with his blade, and the lines between him and his environment had blurred nearly beyond recognition. Against any foe of his past, he would have been triumphant, and perhaps easily so. But as the Jedi Master rallied himself against the foe he now faced, all he could sense was a sickening sense of growing clarity, for he was forced ever to be on the defensive, ever the stone and never the ocean, always the shield but too rarely the sword. It was not a pace he could keep up forever. Obi-Wan was performing feats he'd never attempted before, stringing new maneuvers into old techniques as the need arose, and yet he was countered every time. Not always easily, but effectively enough to give the Master a sense of his opponent's depth of experience. The Jedi Master came to an innate realization through this, coming to understand that even while he himself invented techniques and strategies that were new to himself, perhaps new to the entire Jedi Order, they were not new enough. How many times had this Astartes creature performed exterminations like this? No matter the answer, Kenobi now understood that it would be unbearably high, and were that his only issue, It still would have been a nearly overwhelming hurdle to overcome in the fight, but it was not. They were both matched in many ways, but Obi-Wan bore no strength-enhancing armor, had no force-repelling talismans, and could draw on only a fraction of the combat experience of his foe. Obi-Wan gave everything and more, but so too did this warrior who contended with him, who threatened all he stood to defend. Obi-Wan put all his decades of battle behind his blade, reliving his life in subconscious cycles, his soul studying his memory to writing every last possible lesson it could from it. In response, the librarian answered with his own centuries of warfare, and with his memory made perfect, he did not need to reach his edge to access the full breadth of his knowledge. The Jedi Master blocked a horizontal swipe, spinning like a dervish as he absorbed the force from it and struck, cleaving shadows with light, grunting, spraying sweat from his moist hair as he was brought up short by a sharp parry, bending back and avoiding one counter-strike, then parrying another. All the while, his mind also dueled, not against the towering form of the Astartes before him, or against the intrusions of his doubts and flaws, but against the slick, shark-like form of the librarian's own attacking mind. It drove for Kenobi, psychically assailing the Jedi in moments where even the slightest mistake or malign decision could spell disaster. Obi-Wan had thwarted each attempt thus far, and had even struck back with his own mental attacks. Yet even these small blows struggled to be called victories, even small ones, for the Space Marine had not been so much as required to personally address Kenobi's psychic counters, hiding his own vulnerable thoughts behind mind wards born of technical or ritual production, all of which were built directly into his armor. Obi-Wan found that psychically attacking was incredibly taxing and had left him far more vulnerable, forcing him to abandon the tactic and therefore ceding one battlefront to the Imperial. Yet in spite of that loss, clarity was his, and it did not lie. The flow of this battle was against the Jedi, and he soon found himself unable to do much more than fend the librarian off, waiting and watching for a mistake or flaw in his opponent's technique. Yet no matter how much he fought, no such chink in his armor seemed forthcoming. Around them the Jedi grew scarcer and scarcer, escaping or helped to escape by other Jedi as the two combatants did their dreadful battle. Yet in spite of the obvious danger, most of them fled more slowly than they should have, bogged down by the sights and sounds and senses before them. The display put on by the two vying adversaries was a feast to the warriors' eyes, and many could not help but take their taste while it lasted. Each swing of Saffron's stave rippled the air like roasting flames, the librarian using both hands to whip about with the broad head of his bewitched weapon. Across from him, Obi-Wan was a ceaseless spinning disk of blue energy, whirling over and then under and then over again. He avoided the first flurry of soul-smashing strikes before catching Saffron's flank with his blade and driving his body thrown by the force of the swing. The Jedi was sent away before landing and rebounding gracefully off a pillar and then the floor, shards of broken armor and the robes beneath trailing in his weightless wake. Obi-Wan had become transcendent. He had become grace. He was the definition of power. And yet he was also not enough. The librarian matched his speed, driving deep, molten footprints as he tracked the Jedi's evasive legwork, mirroring the movements of the lithe Jedi. He shifted about and stepped as though the armor which enveloped him did not restrict or reduce his movement at all, and the sleight of it constantly threatened to cast an uncanny net of fear over any observer. Those knights who had lived by the saber and its forms drank in the displays with near rapt attention. For those Jedi more inclined towards the mysteries of the Force, this was no less fascinating a contest. The psychic battle which waged between the two was nearly as impressive as the martial contest the warriors were simultaneously engaged in. Kenobi was a...
This is really, really good. I have not stopped it yet, just because I'm enjoying it a lot. This is... it's good. Let's go.
Smooth sphere, leaving no purchase, no place to strike. And yet the Space Marine had formed a lance out of his imperially conditioned mind, striking dead center for Obi-Wan's soul again and again, testing the very limits of the Jedi Master's serenity. The other Jedi around them watched, and most would remember. Whether they carried themselves from that place or were carried by others, they would remember Kenobi's valiant stand and the strength of the monster which overcame him. Snap! He'd broken his left shin, snapped it completely in half. He could feel it, waving, flopping as he fell backwards and away, his fingers releasing his lightsaber, everything moving in a slow, agonized clarity. Agony coursed through Obi-Wan's mind, and though he shunted it aside, his balance was utterly lost. Impossible. He maintained his mental defenses, but he had lost control of his muscles, the pain signaling the failing of his left shin bones, leaving him falling, colliding hard with the ground. In spite of the pain, Obi-Wan was still calm, still collected. He was aware of the damage, but he was also still within the center of his serene mind, and he worked to remain there. What had happened? His mind answered him in a flash review of the last few milliseconds. He had taken the last parry too lightly, and the Space Marine had struck with more force than he had rightly anticipated. His stance had failed to compensate, and the force of the strike had pushed him beyond his body's limit. He blocked the falling strike of the stave wrongly, and the resulting force had broken his shin in half.
Jesus!
It had been one mistake, just one, but it was enough. The Space Marine paused, spinning his stave upright and letting its butt strike the ground. He loomed tall, triumphant, coming forward and rearing back a massive boot to stomp on Obi-Wan's legs, the force of the blow shaking all present and rattling the deck. But Safran could only growl in frustration as he surveyed his handiwork, or lack thereof. The Jedi was no longer prone beneath the dents under his boots. Another Jedi, a Xenos woman with dark skin and sporting bizarre head growths, had charged across the room towards them and slid past in the final moment, grabbing Kenobi by his robe and hauling him out from danger's closing jaws just as they slammed shut. They skidded to a halt, barely controlled, both facing Safran as they arrested their movement. This new woman crouched behind the beaten Jedi Master, arms wrapped protectively around his torso, eyes glowing Akkadian shade in the darkness of the orrery. Obi-Wan could feel Master Ali connecting with him even then, transferring her life force into him, mending his injuries and soothing his fatigue. But he knew that she would not be able to work quickly enough, a fact that became evident as Safran began to approach them. His boots cracked the floor as he came for the Jedi, only to pause a moment later when another form stepped between him and them. Yet another Jedi. The small, willowy form of the elderly Master Jocasta Nu revealed itself, saber active and poised to defend the members of her venerable order.
Swarming like maggots,
Safran cursed under his breath. His brows furrowed, betrayed his deep frustration. 2 more? How many psychers did this fiendish republic have to field? The Space Marine shook the unworthy thoughts from his mind, and instead focused on the force standing before and against him. The woman was obviously aged, straight back though she was. Her white robes were speckled in red, something Safran surmised was not the result of a striking, intentional aesthetic. A long, rectangular box was slung across the bony shoulders and back of the old master, held fast by a strap which clung to both ends of the box. She seemed an absurdly small figure in the shadow of the massive librarian, a detail which did not escape the warrior she now faced.
Have I truly passed your orders so forcefully that you are bringing old women out of retirement to slow me down? It will avail you nothing but further humiliation.
Saffron said, stepping forward and spinning his stave. Jocasta, in turn, raised a single, thin, gray eyebrow. A proper Jedi never truly retires. Besides, I have no intention of doing battle with the likes of you, she said, affecting a distinctly unimpressed air, wrinkling her nose at the Space Marine. Saffron grinned his response, a vicious battle lust showing through the expression. He sped forward instead of speaking further, raising his stave high before swinging it downward, intent on hammering the old woman into the floor of the ship like an offensive protruding nail. His strike, wreathed in psychic force, did little more than fan the air before Jocasta's face, burning some hairs in her eyebrows and little else. Saffron's feet scraped and screeched against the metal ground, but not towards the Jedi woman, but away. He labored against the sudden pull, attempting with all his might to complete his final stride, swiping again at the elder before him and remaining just out of her range. From behind Saffron, emerging from the cover of two pillars which held up the wide room, two more Jedi appeared, a dark-skinned human man
there he
with
is,
a purple blade in one hand, and a tall, bestial Xenos holding a glowing blue saber staff. Both had their free hands extended toward the epistolary, fingers curled as they held him just back from his lethal strike. Jocasta Nu broke her stance, face remaining a stern mask as she nodded in the direction of the two other masters. They, however, would be more than happy to sate your barbarity, the old woman said, the air of disdain about her as thick as water as she...
Of all the Jedi that I think will be able to be the librarian based off the way that he's viewing the warp in this is the one.
Spoke, thrusting her own free hand forward and throwing a pillar of telekinetic might against Saffron. That act succeeded in driving a roar of defiance from the warrior as he was suddenly pressed, holding his ground for only a few seconds before he was thrown backwards, falling toward the two Jedi Masters and their hungry, burning blades.
Oh, come on. Oh, come on.
With our swords, we will forge new stories to strike the gods that haunt us. You might see me as weak, but I will show you what lies behind my eyes.
Oh, I love this.
We will embrace our suffering, soothe our scars of grief, and break their siege of our minds. You may see them as gods. We will show you what lies behind their eyes.
No. No. I ain't got nothing. I got nothing. I did. I thought Obi-Wan was dead. I thought he was dead. I'm glad he's not, but I thought he was dead. I flat out thought that was the end of it. Wow. Okay. Just wow. Oh, so much in that. So much stuff in that. That is just. Mace Windu is. I've been saying it for the last couple of episodes where this fight has been taking place. Mace Windu would be the one, considering how he's employing the warp versus the Force. He would be the one that's going to be able to take on the librarian and win, and not just win hands down. He's one of the few Jedi that would be able to fight him, not on his own terms, but with one of the saber styles that he uses, it allows him to pretty much beat dark side Force users using their own power against them. And considering the powers of the warp would be considered dark side easily, I mean, come on, seriously? It's not really that hard of a stretch. In any case, glad Obi-Wan is dead, flat out. And that last little bit, chaos is coming, and that's not a good sign. If you're Star Wars fan watching this kind of stuff, the number one thing I can tell you is if you thought the Imperium was bad, you really, really haven't seen anything. I mean, not even close to anything yet. Chaos being in the middle of all this. Whenever I would have any kind of discussion about, Star Wars versus 40K, anything like that, the number one thing I would say is you have to completely discount and dismiss chaos from the equation. Because the second the chaos comes into the equation, Star Wars it's going to be an absolute horror show. It's just bad. It's absolutely 100% horrifyingly bad. In any case, that's it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did. And I discovered today there's only a few more episodes of this left before we catch up to the current, time frame. So, yeah. I got to start looking to find a new series. I got a feeling if I don't watch the Old Guardsman Party, I will be killed. And this is going to turn into an event where I'm pretty sure when the next episode will be released, it'll be like any other. It'll be like Texas Speech, where I check my phone at work because it's blowing up, and everybody tells me Star Wars versus 40K, new episode is out. Get home. What are you doing? In any case, like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. I know a bunch of people have been brought in by this series, and I welcome you all. If you'd like to request something to react to, the Discord down below, just join it and pump something in the request for the reaction channel. And if you'd like to support the channel, I have a Patreon down below. All that being said, I put up these decorations because basically I was tired and I wanted to have something up there. I've had these Stuart Sawyer prints for quite a while now. Up in the top left is, of course, Superman, Harley Quinn, Doctor Doom, and up in the top right, which you can't see, is another Harley Quinn print. And then I have that poster. The Hospitaller had it. She's been carrying it around for about a decade. But I'd like to get some 40K stuff. I really, really, really would. All that being said, and all that being done, I'm going to head out now. I'm going to be going to the living room. Me and the Hospital are going to be watching some shows. I'm going to be working on scripts at the same time. I have about 4 or 5-ish scripts I'm working on at the same time. I just can't decide which one I'm going to do first. And I have another special project I'm working on, as well as another special project I'm working on that I've been working on for quite some time. In any case, I'll catch you guys next time. And I can't wait to watch the next one with you. I'm thinking, and if you guys would like this, I'm thinking when I reach the last episode, I'm going to do a watch along with you guys. If that's something that you guys would enjoy, we'll just do a watch along. Yeah, shutting up, heading out. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you next time. And I'm hitting the stop button.